Well, hello. I wanted to share a thought with you today, taken from a book that my wife and I are reading together, and it's called Scouting the Divine, My Search for God in Wool, Wine, and Honey by Margaret Feinberg. It's a great book that we are really interested in reading together because it takes some themes from the Bible that are very common and we find throughout, looking at sheep and looking at wine, looking at honey, and it kind of breaks them down into what's the context that God was speaking to those people of the day throughout the Old and New Testament. And I particularly thought it was very interesting because when I was in high school, I worked at the Frontier Culture Museum in Stanton, Virginia, which is actually a living museum where you go, and my job was to dress in 1850s garb and to work the fields and tend to the sheep and the horses and thresh grain and all kinds of fun stuff. It was really fun, hard work, but really fun. And I just thought it was interesting to have a better perspective of what God is saying when He calls us His sheep, when He is the Good Shepherd. And there were many fun stories, but one section that we just have really looked about talked about boundaries, specifically talking about the Ten Commandments. And it just really struck me when Margaret, in her book, talks about fences and how to a sheep, a fence just keeps them from where they want to go. They look at the fence and they think, I just want to get out and eat that grass over there. The grass is always greener. And this was so true at the museum where I worked. As soon as you opened the gate, those sheep wanted to get out. Even if you had food, they were interested, but as soon as the food was gone, they just wanted to get out and go eat the grass that was on the other side, not knowing that it was dangerous. Not only there are other animals that could injure them, but this was near an interstate and they could get run over if they got out of the fence. And how true that is with us. This is not a new idea, but God gives us boundaries for our own protection because He loves us and He wants to protect us within those boundaries. One of the first is from Genesis 2, 16 and 17, and this is from the garden. And it says, And the Lord commanded the man, saying, Of every tree in the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. From the beginning, we've pushed our boundaries. We've said, we know best, we want to know more, and that just really struck me how we look at the Ten Commandments. Just with anything as children, we can say, why don't you let me do that? Why don't you let me have this? Instead of, thank you for these boundaries because of X, Y, and Z. So I thought a really good exercise for me and for everyone else would be to read through the Ten Commandments, and for each one, find a way that boundary or that rule, however you want to look at it, has blessed your life or could bless your life. For an example, thou shalt not covet. This boundary really helps me enjoy the things that I have, not always be wanting more, be at peace. And that's such a hard thing, I think, to find in our society today, is to find peace now and to be so grateful to God for all the things that we have. So a challenge for you, walk through the Ten Commandments. You can look, at different ways that God has really blessed your life, protects you, protects your family and the world, and how you can live into that and find more peace. God bless.